So good evening, everyone. My name is Amara. I'm your Executive Director for Dress for Success Denver. It is so wonderful seeing you all this evening so that we can chat about leadership. As I had mentioned, our presenter had a family emergency, and so he was unable to present. So I thought I would step in and share some ideas with you. I want to thank you, ladies, for attending tonight. I want to thank you for your attention in advance. I think leadership is so very important. I think it's vital to our personal success as well as our world success that we have in our world. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started with tonight's presentation. So we are talking about leadership, and we are talking about all of the things that leaders do and why leaders are important and how each of us are an individual leader. So the first thing to start off class tonight, I would like to ask, who is a leader that you admire? So think about someone that you either work with or someone in your family, someone on TV, who is a leader or someone in a leadership role that you admire. I'll give you a second. If you want to, you can put that in the chat, or you're welcome to come off mute and share that person's name. Oh, my sister. Okay, thank you, Ola. Got one sharer. Anybody else have someone who is a leader or in leadership that they admire? Maybe a boss, a coach, a teacher. Okay, Sung has my boss. Her name is Allie. Okay, wonderful. I'm happy that Allie has had a good impression on you. Anyone else? All right, so we'll go into our next slide here. What is a leader? A leader is someone who is able to set a direction for a group and then mobilize them toward that goal. You want to think of your leader as the person who is driving the ship, the one who is moving the direction. They are at the wheel and everyone else is working toward the direction that they are going with. Leadership is an acquired attribute. It is something that you learn. I'm sure you've heard the phrase natural born leaders. Well, not necessarily. You can have some leadership traits, but this is something that you need to train, you need to practice, and you need to build toward becoming a better leader. There is a leader in every single one of us. I can tell you, after being in leadership for many, many years, I truly believe that every single one of us has the ability to be a leader or be in leadership. It is something that we can all grasp, and we can even get better at it the more we train. There are many leadership styles, and it is possible to display different styles at different times. So let's go into those leadership styles. We have empowering people, inspiring people, leading chains, and sharing the vision. These are all the components of shared leadership. Oh, we have someone else who added to our chat, Mary Pittman from the Reciprocity Collective. Okay, wonderful. Somebody add another organization that is working hard and doing some leadership. Oh, and Bernadette, well, Bernadette mentioned me. Thank you so much. I try my hardest to lead as well as I can. I've definitely trained and learned and coached and made many mistakes on the path, and that has definitely helped me identify some leadership styles. So let's dive into those styles. So the first style is charismatic. These are your people who are the personalities of the room. When these people walk in, everyone is looking at them. Everyone is engaged, and we are naturally drawn toward following them. A couple of notable leaders, Oprah Winfrey, Winston Churchill, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, and Steve Jobs are excellent examples of charismatic leaders. They influence others through power and personality. They act energetically, motivating others to move forward. They inspire passion and they spur others toward action. They can raise team morale. Can you please put your line on mute? Thank you. They can create risk that the project or the group will collapse if the leader leaves, which can be an issue. And I want to definitely chat about that tonight. The team's success is seen as directly connected to the leader's presence. Okay. And so that is our first example. That is our charismatic leader. Our next example are innovative. These are those people that are completely out of the box. I want you to think about someone that you know who is always thinking of something creative. They always have a new idea. They think about things before they happen. These are the Elon Musks of the world. The gentleman who built Tesla, who is building rocket ships and taking trips to space, who has built an underground tunnel from across California. He is always thinking 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, always thinking. And these are the individuals that help us set the tone for where we are going to go. They also challenge us to think and see things differently. They grasp the entire situation and go beyond the usual course of action. They can see what is not working and bring new thinking and action into play. They create a work climate for others to apply innovative thinking, to solve problems. They force us to change, to develop new procedures and services. Risk taking is valued. They love risks and they love people who will go with them on those risks. Failures don't impede their progress. They see failures as failing forward. It is something that they can move forward into, and they can move their brand, they can move their companies forward through every failure that they have. The next leadership style is command and control. These are individuals that follow the rule and expect others to do the same. I always think about that person with the clipboard who is there and checking off boxes and thinking about the specific things that need to be done. They are upholding policies and procedures to make sure that everything is done correctly. They demand immediate compliance. With a command and control leader, there's no questions, there's no searching, there's no trying to figure it out. What they say is what you do. They are best for situations of real urgency, with no time for discussion, especially when safety is at stake. For example, if there is a disaster, a tragedy, something urgent, you need a command and control leader that is going to step in and take control. They don't have time to listen to debate or questions because it is an emergency. It is something that must be done right now. This is an individual where the leader is the sole decision maker. They are the only ones who get a say, who get a talk. They make the decisions. If used too much, this can feel very restrictive and can limit others' ability to develop their own skills. This is definitely a dictatorship type of leadership, which comes in handy in that urgent situation. But over a long period of time, this is a little bit too much. And it becomes something where you feel restricted, where you feel as though your opinion doesn't matter, your thoughts don't matter. It is hard to get your voice out. So this is one of those things that you have to really watch for the long term. Pace setters. Pace setters would be like Jeff Bezos of Amazon. He's now retired, but when we wrote this, he was still working with Amazon. Also, Sarah Blakely with the founder of Spanx, who was also sold Spanx. But as she was building Spanx and as Jeff was building Amazon, they were setting the pace. They set high performance standards for themselves, and it is all about goals with these individuals. They epitomize the behavior sought from others. So this is your leader by example. They are the ones who are the first ones there in the morning and the last ones to leave at night, because that is how they want their teams to move, the same way they do. Please put your line on mute if you can. I'm getting a little bit of feedback from someone who has joined our meeting. Anybody can, oh, getting all kinds of feedback. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Oh, Still getting feedback. All right. These are best when used when action is key and results are critical. So if you work in an environment, or if you are ever in an environment where you have someone that you have got to have that action taken, you have got to have the result. It is all about the result. This is very common in a sales environment. So if you're working in sales, if you're working in something that is very data driven, if you're in the stock market, if you're trading, this is something that is important because it is action and it is results. And that is what drives that business forward. The problem with this type of a leader, though, is this cannot be sustained for too long, as staff may burn out from too much demanding and too much of the high pace. So again, just like our command and control leader, this is someone who really pushes people a lot and slips into that dictatorship and just cannot be maintained over the long term. Finally, we have our servant leaders. Excellent examples, iconic examples of this: Mother Teresa, Pope Francis. These are people who are putting service above self-interest. It is all about their cause. It is all about the individuals they are serving. You may have seen an inverted triangle where you have the tip of the triangle at the bottom. That is servant leadership, where your entire focus are the individuals that you're serving and the environment that you are putting together. They stay out of the limelight and they let the team accept the credit. They are very content being behind the scenes and continuing to serve and promoting others in order to step into the limelight, to take the credit as a team, to push people forward. They provide tools to get the job done. So they are working and providing tools so that everyone feels successful. A servant leader is almost like your community organizer. They want everybody to work together so that everyone is heard and everyone has the ability to move forward. When anyone at any level of the group can meet the needs of the team. So again, everybody pitches in. Even if you can carry a bag or hand out a flyer, they are still going to value you and they are going to push you up as they serve underneath you. This is ill-suited if the situation calls for quick decisions or if there's a need to meet tight deadlines. But it is very effective for the long term. This is actually one of the longest term leadership styles that exist. So what are the traits of a successful leader? Well, intuition, delegation, you can't do everything yourself. You've got to have some help. Communication, you have to share with people what you want them to do. Confidence, commitment. Commitment is vital. If you're not committed, you can't expect anybody else to be. Inspirational, creativity. You have to keep it interesting. What can you do to change things up or to raise the stakes so that you can keep your team, your employees, your community involved? Honesty. Honesty is very important. And I will share, honesty is not always easy. When you're working with people or you have a community and you have someone that you're not getting along with, you have someone that you're not, that it's not working, or they have done something that is counter to what you believe, you have to be honest with this person. You have to tell them what's going on. You have to be able to share that and have that honest feedback circle going back and forth of sharing what you like, what you don't like, what works for you and what does not work for you. You have to have a positive attitude. You have to. If you're not excited about being a leader or excited about your cause, you can never expect anybody else to be. Is there anything else, anything that I might have missed in the leadership and the traits of the leaders? Please feel free to add something to the chat, or you are welcome to come off mute and share.
Yeah, this is Ola.
Okay.
I also believe that a leader must not just only have confidence and passion, must believe in, like you said, strongly in what the person give a bigger picture, and
Mhm.
also add with him what's in it for me. What do you stand to gain by doing this, going along with this vision? So, because people want to look at what's in it for me. So you must be able to also carry them along in that area too. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I completely agree with you. That's fantastic. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Oh, Bernadette, you want to share something?
Sure. I think another trait for leadership is passion,
Mhm.
because you want someone to be passionate about what the organization or company stands for and their mission and value. So I think having passion is really important as well.
Mhm. I would agree. You've got to have passion. And I can tell you, passion cannot be faked. There's a lot of things you can fake it until you make it, but passion is one of those things that can't be faked. You can say, woohoo, yay, I'm for it. And then 5 minutes later, no, I'm not. It is something that will not sustain you. Passion is that thing, that feeling that comes from the inside. It is something that fuels you and that moves you to continue to do something. Even when you're in less than ideal circumstances, it is that passion. I can share, I have a passion for Dress for Success. You know, a lot of you I see on this call, a lot of you have known me. I have a passion for this. It is a sincere passion. This is my 15th year with the organization, and not all of those years have been great. A lot of those years have been a lot less than great. Personal struggles, health struggles. I know this year has been real interesting. Being in a wheelchair for 4 months, being in a walking cast for 2 months, and now trying to figure out how to walk with a brace and a cane and crutches. And it was that passion that I had for Dress for Success that allowed me to continue to do this, that allowed me to continue to say, I am in pain, or even I'm in the hospital, but I'm still going to get on that Zoom call because it is passion that I have for the organization that I lead. That is what moves you forward. I love this, the comment, thank you, inspiring others of their gifts and greatness. Absolutely. That is fantastic, because like we had said earlier, there's a leader in every single one of us. And so you've got to be able to move people forward and to inspire them to share. Thank you so much for sharing. I want to play for you a brief clip, a brief video about leadership. One of my heroes is Simon Sinek. I don't know if you know him through YouTube or through any of his presentations, his TED Talks. He's very famous for his TED Talk about the why, but he also speaks a lot to leaders. And he speaks to leaders in corporations. He speaks to leaders in the military. He's really an excellent speaker. And so I would like to share this brief clip where he is explaining leadership.
You give the credit away. And when everything goes wrong, you take all the responsibility. That's what it means to lead. This is my favorite story of all. Remember who you are. There was an Undersecretary of Defense who was giving a speech at a large conference of like 1,000 people. And he was recently retired. So he was the former undersecretary, one of the former undersecretaries of defense. And he was standing on the stage giving his speech, his prepared remarks, and while he was talking, he was taking a sip out of a cup of coffee he had in this styrofoam cup. And he sort of looks down and smiles and interrupts his prepared remarks. And he says, you know, last year I was the secretary, as the undersecretary, and I spoke at this exact same event in this exact same venue last year. Except last year, while I was still undersecretary, they flew me here business class. They had a car waiting for me to take me from the airport to the hotel. Someone had already checked me in and escorted me up to my room. The next morning I came downstairs, there was someone waiting for me in the lobby, and they took me to this same venue. They took me in the back entrance, they took me into the green room, and they handed me a cup of coffee in a beautiful ceramic cup. He says, I'm no longer the undersecretary. I flew here coach. I took a taxi from the hotel to the airport. I checked myself in. This morning, I took another taxi to the same venue. I walked in the front door. I found my way to the backstage. And when I asked somebody, do you have any coffee? He pointed to the coffee machine in the corner. And I poured myself a cup of coffee into this here styrofoam cup. He says the lesson is, the ceramic cup was never meant for me. It was meant for the position I hold. I deserve a styrofoam cup. We all deserve styrofoam cups. As you become more successful, as you do well in life, you will be afforded many advantages. People will call you sir and ma'am, they'll carry your luggage, they'll hold doors open for you, they will bring you a cup of tea without you even asking for it. But it's not meant for you. It's meant for the position you hold. And when you move on, they will give all those things to the person who replaces you. Never, ever forget that you only ever deserved a styrofoam cup.
Sorry, I stopped that a little too soon. I wanted to go ahead and share that because I love that story. And I think a lot of times we will meet people in leadership or we're around people and it's almost as though leadership goes to their head. Like you start thinking, I am so great. You know, I see Bart Simpson walking around the kitchen with the frying pan, you know, I am so great. Look at me. And that is really not the case. Because we are all individuals and there's a difference between you and a difference between the leader. When you step into that leadership role, this is what you are doing. This is what you are for. When you step out of that leadership role, people are going to relate to you differently. You're going to get different things, but you have to always remember who you are because it will be so difficult to move from a leadership and out of a leadership or to different leadership roles when you don't. I think humility is the number one thing. Being a humble leader, being willing to admit when you've made a mistake, being willing to admit when someone has corrected you, and being open to that feedback is absolutely vital for taking your leadership from one role to the next role. I'm going to go back and share my screen and jump back into this. So I have a couple of quotes from some amazing women leaders. We have Arianna Huffington, if you've ever heard of the Huffington Post. She says, fearlessness is like a muscle. I know from my own life that the more I exercise it, the more natural it becomes to not let my fears run me. Then we have Oprah, the ultimate leader. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. The ability to triumph begins with you, always. And then I found this really cool quote from America Ferrera. As a child, I didn't know what I didn't have. I'm thankful for the challenges early on in my life because now I have a perspective on the world and kind of how that's important. It's extremely important to have that perspective and knowing who you were and who you are today in that leader and never losing that sense of self. Influential leaders, we've got purpose, presence, courage, compassion, commitment, humility, being humble, and grit. Grit, I think, is also something that's very important. You've got to have grit and you've got to be determined. One of the things that always amazes me about the women in Dress for Success is the level of determination and the grit. I want you to think back to a time when you had to show grit. You either were forced to, you were in a situation where you either had grit and determination or you were not going to make it. You were going to suffer. You were going to be in a situation that was going to get even worse. And you had to show that pure grit, that grit of saying to yourself, I am going to do this. I am going to be successful. I'm going to get that job. I'm going to leave that job and get another one that better suits my needs. But that grit, that is something I have always admired, and I admire it every day about the Women in Dress for Success, about you all on this call, taking some time out of your day to learn a little bit about leadership and all of the things that you can do in order to become a better leader. So I want you to think, and I want you to take a moment to identify your leadership style. And what I would like to do is I would actually like to go ahead and add people into break rooms so that you can chat about your leadership style. If you are unable to come off of mute and chat, please let us know. But I'm going to put everyone in a breakout room, and I would like for you to share your leadership style. Which one of these most identifies with you? So I'm going to put up breakout rooms, and we'll be in those for about 5 minutes.